Welcome to Morning Java, brought to you, of course, by Get Go Cafe and Markets, where, Chris, they have the Captain.
Yeah.
7-inch fish sandwich.
Fish sandwiches, man. It's light on you, so it feels good, but it also tastes real good. Get to Get Go right now and get you a fish sandwich. But Dale, it's time we talk a little bit more about a position that's been talked a lot about with the Steelers, wide receivers.
Yeah, the Steelers have signed Dante Moncrief, a veteran receiver. This is what they needed to do, a veteran outside the numbers receiver.
Speedster.
A speedster. Now I think what you're going to see them do is take another receiver. I see a lot of mock drafts saying the Steelers have the Steelers taking a receiver in the first round. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Heavy.
The sweet spot for receivers in this draft is in rounds 2 and 3. That's where you're going to get the good value on these guys. And the Steelers have had a lot of success taking guys in the second and third rounds, even in the fourth round. So I don't think they take a receiver in the first round. I think they still take a playmaking defensive player in the first round, save that the receiver. They have basically 2 second-round picks.
Yeah.
Whether people want to call that pick for
But
Antonio
that
Brown,
early third, it's 2 picks off. I mean,
Yeah.
I was joking with some of my friends who are Patriots fans, and they were saying, well, why didn't you trade it our second-round pick? It's because your second-round pick was just 2 picks ahead of the Raiders pick in the third round. Why would you trade him to the Patriots for just 2 picks ahead? Makes no sense.
He has friends that are Patriots fans.
Yeah, listen. I like to be diverse. But let's talk about why the wide receivers position is important. It's because Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy who succeeds, and I talk a lot about this in Carter's Classroom from last week. But Juju Smith-Schuster is a guy who succeeds in the slot and outside the numbers. But in the slot and in the bunch inside the numbers, that's where 66% or more of his yards, receptions, and targets came last year. He was designed to be in there. If you put him outside the numbers, that's taking away a huge way that he's productive. That's why Dante Moncrief was nice. I think he's an upgrade on Justin Hunter, but they still need a guy that's a playmaker and a starter that can be outside the numbers and allow Juju Smith-Schuster to rotate inside.
Rob Manfred, Major League Baseball's still fairly new commissioner, has a lot of ideas. Yeah. Most of them seem to be aimed at pace of play, but he's also got a concern, and I happen to think it's a legitimate one, about all the strikeouts. Do pitchers have too much of an advantage, John?
I think they do now. It seems like when I started covering baseball full-time in 1988, day on, in the National League, now you didn't see the American League, there wasn't interleague play, there probably were 12 pitchers in the whole league that threw 90. Now, if you throw 90, you're a soft tosser.
Oh, yeah.
And I think
you're a joke, right?
I mean, with all the improvements in biomechanics and all the video study and everything, pitchers have learned to really maximize their deliveries. And it seems like everybody throws 95. It comes out of everybody's bullpen. And I think that makes it hard for hitters because teams also use more relief pitchers, and they just bring one guy after another
it's
throwing
just gas after gas after gas. So what's the solution? Because if you go back into baseball history, there's been lowering of the mound. Yeah. There's been raising of the mound. What do you do?
Well, they've talked about potentially one of the things that's been kicked around, and I don't know how serious in the negotiations between MLB and the Players Association, is maybe moving the mound back a couple of feet to maybe 62 or 63 feet because people throw so hard now. I'm a traditionalist, though I will embrace certain change, but I don't know if I like messing with how far the pitcher's mound is from home.
My argument's always, when you're talking about traditionalism and you're talking about the size of a playing surface, whether it's football, basketball, hockey, whatever it is, that you have to take into consideration, I think, that humans are larger.
True.
You talked, and rightly so, about the biomechanics and everything. But the other thing is that, John, we've seen these pitchers just visually over the years grow. You don't see a guy like Sean Burnett walk into a locker room who's 5'11". Never mind, by the way, Bernie being a first-round pick.
Yeah.
You're seeing guys that are now just, they're all Joe Musgrove.
They are.
You know, they're all just these giant athletes. And you can't shrink humans, but you can adjust the playing surface. What I worry about, I think, if the mound goes back, would be how much are you messing with the existing players' biomechanics?
Yes.
I mean, they've learned how to pitch with incredible precision over an entire lifetime, and now you're going to say, hey, you know what, try this instead.
Very true. And I mean, you're used to throwing your breaking ball, your slider, your curveball a certain way. Now all of a sudden you have to make it so it breaks another stays another 2 feet on that plane, and that's going to be hard to do. As talented as those guys are, to up and change the distance is definitely going to have an effect.
A violent adjustment. This facility behind us is the original Pirate City. It's been at times kind of a dingy motelish kind of thing here, but it's also the place where Roberto Clemente stayed there.
Yeah.
I mean, Roberto Clemente participated in spring training and was housed there.
Yes.
The history that's here, the Pirates have been in Bradenton since 1969, is a beautiful thing. I think it's something that a lot of Pirates fans should be proud of.
Yes.
You and I have had experiences here with some of the old timers when they come back. You have to share with everybody your Willie Stargell story.
Well,
when was this?
It would have been 2000 or 1999 or 2000. They all kind of run together when we've done it for 32 years. But it was when Willie came back, and Kevin McClatchy bought the team. He brought Willie back
into the
special
family,
advisor.
literally, with a capital F.
And that made so many people inside the Pirates. It made Willie so happy. One day, the Pirates were playing a night game, so it didn't have to be at the ballpark early like most days in spring training with the Major League Club. So I always once a spring like to come over in the minor league camp and just see some of the play, put some faces to the names of some players you hear about in the lower minors. And Willie's there sitting in a golf cart by himself, and he goes, hop in. And we sit there and we talked about some of the lower minors players, what he thought about. We talked about his playing days. We talked about, them getting ready to open a new ballpark and how excited he was, and talking about when they left Forbes Field and moved into Three Rivers Stadium, how state-of-the-art it was. And it was just a really cool couple of hours. I mean, of all the years spring trainings, this is my 32nd. That has to be my most memorable spring training moment. It was just amazing.
I'm not going to top that. I'm not going to try to compete with it. Mine was a couple of years ago. Bill Mazeroski and Bill Verdon were just sitting out by Bucket, doing their thing.
Yep.
Talking about whatever it is those old guys talk about, and they invited me to sit down with them and told stories, not about the 1960 team. This is my favorite part of this story. They talked with the most pride about the 1958 team. Maz in particular is so proud of 1958 because that was the year that the Pirates went from being the joke that they were all through the 50s, worst team, the one that got rid of Ralph Kiner because we can finish last without you. And they broke through. They got to that next level. And then they had the setback year, which is pretty common in baseball. Something goes wrong, one pitcher gets hurt, whatever. They felt that 1958 was the main reason they were able to win the pennant in 60. And then, of course, once you get into the tournament, as they showed the Yankees, you can do anything.
And that's a neat story. I think, so many people just think of the 60 team, but you're right. It was a long build-up to them being good again, and for them to finally
And then the funny
thing
is, the same guys from the Pirates' last truly, I think, great teams in the early 90s will tell you the same story about 1988.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And they had the setback in 89 and then the 3 straight division titles.
They lost 3 of their best players within the first 2 weeks of the season in 89, and they did have a good year in 88. They were in first place up in the late July, and then they faded, and that happened to be my first year covering the Pirates. And, there was a lot of excitement. Only 3 years earlier, the team had really coming close to leaving Pittsburgh. I mean, there were people bidding on that team overtly saying, we want to buy them and we're going to move them. And to go from that to 3 years later being a contending team for much of the season was really exciting. You could see the future there. Like you said, that was going to lead to something better down the road, and it did in 90, 91, and 92.
You can see the impact this place has on us.
Yeah.